Good morning, everyone. My name is Tammy Sadler-Jones. I'm the Assistant City Administrator, and I'd like to call to order the License and Variance Board meeting for Wednesday, May 13th, 2015 at 10 o'clock a.m. Board members present, to my left is Roy Akery, the Fire Chief, and to his left is Scott Stokes, the Public Works Director. Heather Korn is our Deputy City Clerk, and she will be taking the official meeting minutes. First item is a public hearing. Variance request L1C 201509, beer wine package 2640 Herodian Way, Al Kalik Incorporated, DBA Family Grocery. Imtiaz Hossein Roni is the agent. Is Mr. Roni here? Can you please step to the podium, please? Good morning. For the record, can you please state your name?
Imtiaz Hossein Roni.
Speak into the mic.
Imtiaz Hossein Roni.
Okay, all right. And you are the current agent?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And have you received a copy of the city's alcohol beverage ordinance?
Yes, ma'am.
And have you read and do you understand that ordinance?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And have you completed the prerequisite responsible alcohol sales class?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And we have a copy of your certificate in our packet, is my understanding.
Okay.
And what steps do you have in place to make sure that your store does not sell alcohol to underage persons?
I'll send them to training and check everybody's
Lift
ID.
the microphone up.
And check all customers' ID and get them good training to my employees and by myself too.
Can you repeat that? Because I can't hear you.
Actually, I'm checking everybody's ID.
Okay.
And give my employees good training and send them to take class.
Okay. And you do the training yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. And how many employees do you have?
One.
All right. And your role as the agent, typically, what are your hours?
Store hour?
Yeah, what hours do you work from?
I work morning 8 to 12 and evening 6 to 10.
Okay, all right. Any other questions for the applicant?
Yeah, Mr. Roney, how many days a week on average are you physically present at the store?
7 days.
Okay, so you're pretty much there every day, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And what is your official capacity with the business? Do you own the business, or are you the store manager?
I just buy the business.
I'm sorry?
I own the business.
You're the owner of the business?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And have you ever been a registered agent for the sale of alcohol in the state of Georgia, anywhere else, in any other place?
No, it's like 2 years before. I have alcohol license in DeKalb County.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have no more that business. It's last year I sold it.
Okay.
Any other questions? Do you understand that from time to time the Smyrna Police Department does undercover operations to determine if stores sell to minors?
Yes.
Okay. And do you understand that if one of your cashiers do sell to a minor, that they will be arrested and taken to jail immediately?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. All right. The Smyrna Police Department did do a background check, and there was no information that would preclude issuance of this particular license. With that said, this is a public hearing. If anyone would like to speak regarding this issue, you can step to the podium at this time. All right. Seeing no one, I'd like to entertain a motion, please.
Make a motion to approve license 2015-09, privilege license request, beer wine package 2540 Herodian Way.
MTS.
Hossein Roni as the agent.
Second motion to approve.
It's been motioned and properly second that we approve privilege license request L1C 2015-09. All in favor, please vote. All right, motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Next item is a public hearing, variance request V15019, allow reduction of front setback from 40 feet to 30 feet for the construction of a new single-family home, land lot 561-592-032 acres, 1491 Roswell Street. Terry Wilson is the applicant. Mr. Wilson, can you please step to the podium? And for the record, can you please state your name?
Terry Wilson.
All right. And who are you with?
I am the owner of Wilson Built Homes, DBA Leland Homes.
Okay, all right. And can you explain your variance request to us for item 2B?
What I was trying to do was pull the home to the left. Let me see on this one. Yeah, pull the home backwards 10 feet towards the back of the property, so it's not sitting up so far forward. Right now, the homes to the left of me are closer. Not all of them, but they jog up and down a little bit.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant?
Not yet.
Okay. All right. At this time, we'll have Joey Stobbs make comments.
Joey Stobbs, Planner 1, Community Development. Applicant is requesting reduction in the front setback from 40 feet to 30 feet at 1491 Roswell Street. The applicant is stated that the reduction allows some protection of trees on the subject property and allows the front porch to extend closer to the street. The actual face of the house is roughly 40 feet to 37 feet from the front property line, because it has a little indentation in the front. But the front porch, which is covered, is the majority of what requires that front setback. And like Mr. Wilson mentioned, the properties along Roswell Street, there's a variety of different front setbacks, some non-conforming, some that were part of a RAD site plan specific zoning that have 20 foot setbacks. Some directly across the street or probably at about 20 feet. The existing homes that are not built within the last 10 years, they vary greatly from 30 feet to 90 feet. But reducing the setback allows the porch to be closer to the street and allows the rest of the house to be pulled forward, so there is some backyard for future use for that homeowner. And on that request, we've recommended approval with 2 conditions. Approval of the requested variance shall be conditioned upon substantial compliance with the site plan submitted with the variance application. 2, gutters and downspouts shall be positioned such that stormwater runoff is directed onto the subject property without impacting adjacent properties. The second condition more so applies to the second variance, but we generally apply those to both variances. This plan has been through several iterations. There was one site plan that required a east side setback reduction as well, which Mr. Wilson has omitted that variance, and then a rear yard reduction that he's also omitted. So we're just down to these two variances that we're hearing today. Ms. Wilson and Community Development had met with the adjoining property to the west that have concerns about stormwater that we'll discuss more on the second variance. But as far as the front setback goes, it is in line with the development pattern of the of that community, and we recommended approval with those conditions.
Any objections from any of the neighbors? Joey, any objections from any of the neighbors?
No objections per se, just concerns from the property owners to the west, but no stated opposition from other parties or anything like that, so no.
Any questions for staff?
No, I've got a question for the applicant, Mr. Wilson.
Yes.
So just so I can wrap my brain around it, this need, of course, we're going to hear today two variance requests, but this first one is for the front setback.
Yes.
It's in line with things that this board has considered and approved several times. But just so I can wrap my brain around it, based off of your testimony and what we just heard from staff, this house and also within the application package, we've got pictures of what the house would look like. And this looks like a rear load house, is that right?
That is correct.
So the driveway goes immediately, beside the property, and then to park in the garage, you turn and park in the back. It says rear load.
Yes.
So you want to pull the house a little bit forward on the property, and to both accommodate easier for the rear load and also have a usable backyard space for the future. Is that right?
Correct. The buyer wants to add some stuff in the yard later on down the road.
Yeah. So, and the only thing that really that causes this front setback variance is because of the design of the house with regard to the porch.
Right.
Is that right?
Because we could have went with a front entry.
Yeah.
And no houses have front entry down through there.
Right. So, keeping in line with
Correct.
with the area. Okay.
And the buyer has stated that he wants to add some future outbuildings, a pool maybe later on down the road, and that gives him enough yard to do that later on.
Okay.
And if we kept at the 40-foot building line, we would be 10 foot further back than all the houses on that street.
Right. Okay. That's all I had.
But you understand the intent is, it looks like, looking at the site plan, that you're trying to direct all the stormwater, especially on the west side of the house, down the driveway into the street.
Yes, sir. We shot it yesterday. And if you look at the existing home that was there, it looks like most of the homes are all pulled to the left building line. They're non-conforming at all. The existing house that was there, the front left corner was 7 foot to the property line. The back of the home was 5.1. So we're asking for a variance. I know this goes to variance number 2, to a 7.5. We met with Casey and Vic on the 30th of April, and we came up with an agreement on that. What we did is I shot all the grades yesterday and where the garage is at. And if you know grades, I'm at 3.1. And on the front right corner of the property at the curb, I'm at 4.6. In the center, I'm at 4.11. And on the front left, I'm at 5.2. At the front of the FFE, finished floor elevation, I'm at 3.7. So what we talked about in that meeting on April 30th was the gutters on the left-hand side is down, pipe in the downspout on that one side, which I agreed to, which we try to always be a good builder neighbor. I try to go beyond what we always do and try to make the surrounding property better. We did shoot there as a pipe going under the driveway on the left-hand side on the west property. that crate is actually...
Speak into the mic, please.
I'm sorry. That property is actually, that crate and pipe is actually 2 foot into our property. And we shot that, the bottom of the pipe is 5.9. So if you look at the grades right now from 3.7 to 5.9, it's all going right there. Which, you know, you could look at a prescriptive easement if it's been there for so long. But what we're trying to do is I want all the water to go to the street. And that's why I'm taking the time. What we're doing is I want the front of the home to look like it would back in 1940. I want it 2 foot off the ground across the front, and then you dig in on the side. So what we did was padded the whole lot, compacted it in. We'll dig it in, and then I'll be digging that dirt back out. Or you can go back and put a small tie wall on the left-hand side of the property line and then pipe in that one downspout and get the water towards the front too. So it would not bring water. We're going by 2012 or 2014 IRC, which states that if you're less than 10 foot to the property line, you have to have a slope going to the property line and a swell coming down, and water cannot go on your neighbors. And that's what I have to abide by my license.
Good deal.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing. If anyone would like to speak regarding this issue, I ask that you please step to the podium at this time. Good morning.
Morning. I'm Casey Clavin. My husband and I own the property to the west of the subject property. We own the property immediately to the west, and we live in the house, which is 2 doors to the west. Our only concerns are, as Mr. Stubbs and Mr. Wilson mentioned, we are okay with the 30-foot front setback, reduction from 40 to 30 foot on the front setback. And we have agreed to a reduction of the side yard setback on the west side from 10 foot to 7.5 foot in view of what he wants to do, maintaining trees on the opposite property line. Our only concern is about the water. Now, we have the site plan, and I can see that the water splits at the back of the house and that the grade comes down and the water is shown coming down on both sides of the house. But, and I'm not in this business, and I don't necessarily understand all of what he just said in terms of keeping the water on the property. But in order to put the slab where they wanted to, they've brought in a lot of dirt. So where the subject property used to be a couple of inches below our property, the subject property is now a foot above our property. And so downspouts and gutters, as per the current state of condition number 2, downspouts and gutters wouldn't appear to keep the water on that property. It would, because water will find the quickest path downhill. And the grade drop along that 90 foot of west side of that house is just under 1/4 of an inch per foot. It's 0.24 inches per foot. But as of right now, the grade drop that's heading essentially from north to south. That grade is 1/4 of an inch per foot. But the grade heading west toward our property right now is 12 inches in 1 inch. So, the water is going to head west as of the way the land lays right this minute. All we're looking for is a statement in condition number 2, a wording or language for condition number 2, which very clearly states that the water will not wash west onto our property. Joey Staubs explained to me in an email exchange that generally the specifics of how that's accomplished are not delineated at this point, and that makes sense. But we would like that general language to say something that speaks to us as the property owners and gives us assurance that that we're not going to be inundated. There is as Mr. Wilson mentioned, there is a low spot in the southwest front corner of that property. And there is a little catchment basin there, don't know if I'm using the exact right terms, and a pipe that leads under our driveway at 1485 to the west, and then dumps into a catch basin in the right-of-way in front of our place at 1485, which then dumps into to the stormwater, the city's stormwater system. Mr. Wilson apparently intends to use that pipe that goes under our driveway. Eric Randall said to me personally on site, because he was out there with an issue across the street, he said that in order to use that infrastructure, that the owner of 1491 would need to be in agreement, would need an agreement from the owners of 1485 to go under that driveway. As Mr. Wilson says, that pipe has been under there a long time. I don't know that he needs any agreement from us at this point. That easement might kind of exist as a grandfather. Don't know the answer to that. We're not opposed to him using that to shoot the water off and into the back of the stormwater catchment in front of 1485. But again, we want assurances that that additional water, the house that was on that property was 32 by 45 feet in area. It's a very small house. The house that he's planning to put on that property is about 40 feet across the front, and on its longest dimension on the west side, it's 90 feet deep, 89 feet deep. So there's a lot of rooftop there, and as his site plan shows, the water splits and comes down both sides of the property. I expect that most of it is going to go down the east side. However, still, we have the concern about the west side because that's where our property is. If he uses that drain pipe under our driveway, and there's more water coming off 1491 than there used to be coming off 1491, there may be an issue with that water backing up onto our yard, because in the heaviest of rains, that catchment in the city stormwater system is at capacity. So that was long-winded, forgive me, but you understand what our concerns are. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. I just had another question from Mr. Wilson, the applicant, please. Mr. Wilson, you just heard the testimony, the statements that was just offered. Can you kind of address one more time with regard to your plans that you've previously stated with regard specifically to the topography, just to kind of answer some of their concerns, and then after that I've got one more question for you.
Yes,
Go
sir.
ahead.
What we've done is I actually had DGM go out and do a topography shot on the whole property. And on the topo, or the house location plan, what it is, the reason why it's 90 foot long on one side is because we took the garages and put them in the rear. But if you see the yard, what's been happening over years, the property to the east and the property to the west was dumping into the old existing house. And what the previous owner had done is poured walls under his crawl space and put a pump under there and been pumping it to the west side. And it was coming down the house and going into the pipe. What I suggested when we had our meeting with KC and Vic on April 30th, with Ronnie Raines and all of us, and Rusty and Joey, I have no problem piping that one. It's going to be one gutter on that one side. Yes, you're going to have a little bit of sheet rain coming down through on the left side, because right now it shows the property 8.8 on the back left corner and 8.8 on the front left corner from the house to the property line right now. So we are going to have some. I'm going to try to make sure when we go, grades does change. They do change a little bit when you get into construction. So we're going to try to take it all down the driveway and go out the front.
Yeah, and I'm assuming based off of that, and when you mention finished grade, would it be a correct assumption on my part to think that when you get to final grade, and you've piped what you said you're going to pipe, and you get to final grade, you're going to try to do it in a way that tries to prevent the concerns brought up by your neighbors. Is that
yes,
correct?
Sir. And that's the reason why we shot the grades yesterday.
Right. So if that's the intent, would you be okay with currently condition 2 says gutters and downspouts shall be positioned such that stormwater runoff is directed into the subject property without impacting adjacent properties? Since we just talked about what your intent would be with the final grade, would you be okay with condition 2 stating gutters, downspouts, and finished grade shall be positioned such that stormwater runoff is directed onto the subject property? So all we would be doing would be adding, right now it says gutters and downspouts, we'd be adding finished grade. shall be positioned such that stormwater runoff is directed onto the subject property without impacting adjacent
Well,
properties?
it's like the pipe that's right there. Am I supposed to take concrete and fill it in? Because right now it is a prescriptive easement.
Mm-hmm.
It is in the right-of-way. It is going on my property 2 foot. I have no problem on the west side of the home piping the downspouts towards the front to get the water out further away. But I'm raising the house up. We have plenty of fall there. But then we're getting into a gray area. Can I guarantee in a 5-inch rain that water is not going to go to a neighbor?
Right,
No,
and
I can't.
and I think that I mean, I don't want to speak for any of your neighbors, but of course, I think everybody knows that when it rains, the rain that's going to go on the ground is going to travel down
Correct.
to the path of least resistance, and we all know that the intent behind stormwater runoff is really as it relates to roofs, driveways, non-pervious surfaces, that kind of
Right.
thing, where it would collect and And I think that the way that it is now, the only reason that I even posed that single word addition into is because you've already said, just like I assumed, that you intend to, when you do final grade, you're not going to build the grade up to where it runs directly to their property anyway. So what I envisioned with that question to you, with adding that one word, would not require any an additional. Since you already intend to do this anyway, you're not going to create
Right.
the final grade to where it, adversely impacts, adjacent properties. Would you have an issue with us just putting it in there? I mean, I feel confident in your request that this is just personally that you probably are doing everything that you can do to not adversely impact stormwater runoff onto adjacent properties.
I can compromise on that as long as we put in there that we're piping the left downspout, not trying to pipe the whole property, because then you have pipes going everywhere in the yard, and that gets a little tricky. Because it's really what you have is a 1-story, 3-car garage in the back. So we'll try to take the gutter on that side and pipe it towards the front. I even shot the curb there. We have a low spot in the curb. And we do have a lot of water coming down the street, and that's why right now the existing driveway has a hump in it so it don't jump over the driveway into the yard. And I think that's what some of the issue is. When we grade, we can alleviate that problem.
Yeah, and also, you know that it's not, at least from the license and variance perspective, it's not our job or intent to prescribe specific things. You're going to pipe this pipe or not pipe this one. This is more of an overarching, you agree to do it in this general fashion.
I can agree
as
I
to
can
prevent
compromise.
this possible problem.
Yes.
The yard drain that's in question here. What size pipe is that yard drain?
It's either a 6 or 8 inch. It's PVC, and it has a 18 by 16 by 16 or 18 by 18 crate on top of it. It's really not doing anything. It could actually really collect and clog up easier right now the way it is than if we went in there and put some rock around it and dressed it up to catch anything.
What's the invert elevation of that pipe at the yard drain?
At the bottom of it, it's 5.9.
Well, that's your shooting grade elevation. What's the topo elevation of it?
I don't have that.
So 5.9 is
the bottom of the pipe.
And your finished floor.
My finished floor
grade, not elevation.
Is the grade that's there now is 3.7. We're going to form up 6 to 8 inches on top of that, and then turn down the front. So from there to there, you almost have 1.5 feet roughly of fall.
And did you mention earlier that you planned on, or is that something you've decided to do now, is to pipe the left side of the house to that yard drain?
No. What I was trying to do was pipe the pipe in the front. When we shot the center of the yard, it at the curb is 411. So right now, the pipe on the left-hand side, Ronnie Rain just spoke to Vic and KC, and we had agreed at one time with them we'd cut it and we'd put in a bigger pipe. Obviously, their issue is too much water going through there, and I can understand that. My job is to get the water to go out the front, and that's, per code. Per code, the water is not supposed to flow onto another yard. That's what the IRC says in a cable 1 and 2 family dwelling. Without that, when Robin WT comes out to inspect, if it is, I don't get CO.
You're talking about a pipe that you don't have ownership. You don't have ownership of the pipe.
It's 2 foot out into our property right now.
A piece of it.
Exactly.
And the other piece belongs to, I guess, the adjoining property owner.
Exactly.
And then whatever falls in the right of way doesn't belong to the city. But
Correct. I mean, I can easily plug it up with concrete. Pour it solid on my side.
I don't know that would help, though, would it? All right. Yeah, I think we're done. Yeah.
Since there are no more questions, this is a public hearing. If anyone else would like to speak regarding this issue, I ask that you step to the podium at this time. All right. Seeing no one else, I'd like to entertain a motion, please.
Motion to approve variance request V15-019 to allow the reduction of front setback from 40 feet to 30 feet for the construction of new single-family home, land lots 561, 592, 0.32 acres located at 1491 Roswell Street, applicant Terry Wilson, with the following 2 conditions. Condition 1, that approval of the requested variance shall be conditioned upon substantial compliance with the site plan submitted with the variance application. And condition 2, that gutters, downspouts, and final grade shall be positioned such that stormwater runoff is directed onto the subject property without impacting adjacent properties.
second.
It's been motioned and properly second that we approve variance request V15019. All in favor, please vote. All right, motion passes unanimously. Next item is a public hearing, variance request V15020. Allow reduction of west side setback from 10 feet to 7.5 feet for the construction of a new single-family home, land lot 561, 592, 0.32 acres, located at 1491 Roswell Street. Terry Wilson is the applicant. And you got any additional comments about this variance? Okay. Joey, do you have any additional comments?
I pretty much covered it. The V15-020 request to reduce the west side setback from 10 feet to 7.5 feet. The actual structure is approximately 8 feet 9 inches from the side property line. I guess the allowing the reduction to 7.5 feet gives some flexibility if needed. The former house, although smaller, it's almost consistent with the new home, except for the addition of the patio and the garage on the west side, which does add significant area to the home. But the former structure was, as noted, it was approximately 5 feet from the property line. The new structure will be further away. Mr. Wilson has on the east side, reduced a lot of impervious area, making the driveway just I don't know what you call those strips of carriage strips for on the east side with landscaping in the middle, which will reduce some runoff, and the majority of the stormwater will flow towards that side. We've discussed extensively the addressing the stormwater on the west side, which basically applies to this variance. So after analysis and comment from the board and the adjoining residents, we would recommend approval with the condition 1 as read, and then condition 2 as amended. Gutters, downspouts, and finished grade shall be positioned such that stormwater runoff is directed onto the subject property without impacting the adjacent properties.
Any questions for the staff? All right. This is a public hearing. If anyone would like to speak regarding this issue, if you please step to the podium at this time. All right. Seeing no one, I'd like to entertain a motion, please.
Make a motion to approve variance request V15020 to allow the reduction of the west side setback of 10 feet to 7.5 feet for the construction of a new single-family home at 1491 Roswell Street, land lot 561, 592.32 acres. Terry Wilson as the applicant, with the condition that the approval of the requested variance should be conditioned upon the substantial compliance with the site plan submitted with the variance application. And condition number 2, variance. Condition number 2, gutters, downspouts, and final grade shall be positioned such that the stormwater runoff is directed onto the subject property without impacting adjacent properties.
Second motion.
It's been motioned and properly second that we approve variance request V15020. All in favor, please vote. All right, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Next item is a show cause hearing, alcohol beverage violation, Smyrna Beer Mart, 1265 West Spring Street, Southeast. Mr. Kevin Draw, agent, and Mr. Brandon King is the owner. And at this time, I'll turn it over to our Assistant City Attorney, Jeffrey Tucker.
Thank you, Ms. Sadler-Jones. If I could have Officer Copeland and Kevin Draw or Brandon King come up and let me, if the three of you will raise your right hands, we're going to take some factual testimony, so I'll swear you in. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay. Let's start with the police officer and then
Sure.
Then get y'all. And we'll switch off speaking into the mic here. If you'll state your name for the record, please.
Officer Doug Copeland with the Smyrna Street Crimes Unit.
And how long have you been a police officer with the City of Smyrna Police Department?
With the City of Smyrna for 3 years.
All right. And as part of your work with the Street Crimes Unit, you're involved in conducting operations to check and make sure that the businesses that sell alcohol beverage stay in compliance with city ordinances and state law regarding the sales of alcoholic beverages to minors. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. So please describe for the board where you were and what you were doing with the Street Crimes Unit around 5:45 in the afternoon on Thursday, February 19 of this year.
Okay. During that day, we were conducting an underage alcohol sales check at various points throughout the city. At 5:47 p.m., we sent an undercover agent working with us into the Smyrna Beer Mart, also known as Stout Brothers, at 1265 D West Spring Street. And
just so that everybody understands how these operations work, obviously we're not going to identify the agent that you use, but describe the general procedure of who the person was, whether it's male or female, how old they were, and so forth.
We generally use either male or female persons that are under the age of 21. We want someone that's clearly under the age of 21. In this case, it was a female that was 18 years old.
She's 18. Did she have on her person a valid Georgia driver's license?
She did in her purse, yes.
And was it, so just so that everybody understands, isn't it true that here in Georgia, if you're under 21, you get a driver's license that has the following properties? One, it is stamped to say that the person is under 21, as she says that in words, and its orientation is different than the driver's license you or I carry, right? It's rotated 90 degrees from
Yes.
from standard license.
Yes.
She had that kind of driver's license,
Yes,
right?
she did.
All right, so and just so that you understand the way this works, and just so I can summarize, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Obviously, you do not go in your police uniform accompanying her, but you send the undercover agent in, and somehow you monitor what their interaction is with the store employees. Is that right?
Yes, what will happen is I'll let her go inside the store. I'll wait outside in a car. She'll go in and pick up an alcoholic beverage. She'll go to the checkout, attempt to purchase the alcoholic beverage. If the person working at the store asks for her ID, she'll attempt to fumble through her purse, act like she forgot it. If they continue to ask for it, she will present hers if she has it with her. If not, then they won't make the sale.
Okay. And how many employees did she interact with?
That day, I want to say roughly 15 different stores.
No. How many employees at this particular business?
Oh, at this business, just one.
Okay. And did the store employee ask her for her ID?
No, when she went into the store, he asked her if she was old enough to purchase the wine bottle that she had picked up, and she just told him that she was.
But he didn't. He neither asked for nor received or inspected the state-issued ID.
No, from what she told me, he did not require it.
And he sold her an alcoholic beverage. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And at that point, what did you do?
At that point, she exited the store. She gave the change that she had collected from him to me, as well as the alcoholic beverage, and I entered the store and made contact with Mr. Anderson, who was the agent at the counter.
Okay. And did you ask him if he had the required city-issued alcohol sales permit?
Yes, I did.
And he had that, and it was a valid alcohol
Yes.
permit. And the business also had its required occupational tax certificate. Is that correct?
Yes, they did.
Okay. And so then what did you do?
At that point, I explained to him that he did sell to a minor and that he was under arrest for that. I allowed him to call someone else to come take over the store. After that person arrived, he was taken into custody and charged.
Okay. I don't have any more questions for Officer Copeland. If there are questions from the board, we'll take them now.
Just wanted to ask about the conditions in the store. Was it crowded, or was she the only one that
He
went
was
in?
the only one in the store at the time.
Okay. Any questions?
And you stated that that the person that worked there, whether it was the manager or whoever, the person that you eventually took into custody, they asked her if she was old enough, and she said no, or she said yes, she was old enough, but she was never asked to prove that in any way.
Yes.
Okay.
No more questions for the officer.
Okay. Mr. Draw and Mr. King, if you have any questions for the officer, you can ask them now.
I do not have any questions for that.
Okay. All right. So thank you. If you'll sit down, and y'all can step up here, whichever. I always ask this: is there anything in what Officer Copeland said, or in the way that I summarized it, that you either think is not correctly stated, or that you want to supplement in any way?
No, there's nothing I would want to ask him or change her.
Okay. Then I don't have any questions for these. We'll take questions for the board.
What are normally your...
I guess I forgot to do this since everyone knows who this person is. Would you state your name for the record, please?
I'm Kevin Draw.
And what is it, with relation to the business that you have in front of the board today? What is your profession, or how are you?
I'm the licensed agent on there, and also with us is
my name's Brandon King, the owner.
Okay. And, typically, what is your process for training your employees in regards to preventing them from selling to minors?
well, first of all, this one individual has been in the industry for over 15 years and is not what happened here is not a rookie mistake, even though it's not a rookie who did it, even though it was a rookie mistake. I think it's a matter of we put the people through training constantly, not only in the very beginning of their employment with us, but also a continuous training that we do throughout the year. We also do compliance checks ourselves. We have hired the Training Institute for Responsible Vendors, and in which all the members of our staff are put through a very extensive training here. And on top of that, we send in compliance checks, like I said, every month, where we send in underage people. One of the biggest differences that we have done now since then, the state of Georgia actually doesn't even have as strict of laws on it as the city of Smyrna does as far as carding individuals. The state of Georgia says that you have to reasonably card someone who is roughly around the age of, that seems like they're around 21. The city of Smyrna actually has more strict laws in which you're supposed to card each and every individual and make sure that they have their identification on them. That is where we made a big mistake on this. This employee has been through our training, is a very, very good employee. He's a good person and a good employee, and very conscious of what he's done. He made a mistake, and there's no excuse for the mistake. I'm not taking it as an excuse or making any excuses for it. And we understand that having a license here in the city of Smyrna is a privilege, and I do not take it lightly. I sincerely look at it as a privilege and understand whatever the board has to do for this.
And the individual is still currently employed?
The individual is still currently employed. Okay. And they have gone through, as well as every one of our employees there, have gone through the Training Institute's class again, and have gotten recertified from that. And since then, too, we've even had 3 compliance checks in the past month in which everyone on the staff has passed through those too. Those were our own compliance checks that we had done, where we sent in some people underage, as well as now we're sending in people who are a little bit older to make sure that people who are in their 30s and 40s are still getting carded there too now.
Okay.
So those are self-imposed compliance checks?
Correct. Those are ones that we've had in place, and ones that now we have really even stepped up even more.
And you mentioned that the person that this employee that he'd been in the business for, I think you said 15 years. 15
years, yes. I did not, if I was to look at an individual and know that someone who had control of the store, especially being by himself in that store, I would not have picked this person as the one who would have made this mistake and done this. We are human. We do make mistakes, and I understand that, and that's why this person was taken into custody that night and was arrested, and I know that scared anyone who's involved in that situation, and I think it drove the point home to not take things for granted and to really be focused and concentrate on what you're doing and on your job.
And in the 15 years that this person's been in the business, are you aware of any previous violations this person's ever had?
I'm aware of none on his record.
And this person's actually the store manager. Is that right?
This person was the store manager there at the time. And we also have a general manager and also an operating partner that's here with me now, too.
Okay.
Do you have the ability to do the point of sale at the register to determine the age, to put in the date of birth of the customer, or is that not available at this particular location?
The present system that we have in place does not have that. We did literally just, as in yesterday, finally get in a new POS system, of which that is something that will be added to the system and is easy to add to the system.
As a requirement?
Yes.
To carry out the transaction?
Yes, so every transaction will then require the date of birth.
And I know that you guys have mentioned, pretty extensive company practices with regard to continued training and self-imposed compliance and that type of thing. Just out of curiosity, really, and I don't know that it even matters because you actually do it, but do you actually have policies that say, that dictate these types of practices with regard to the responsible sale of alcohol?
Yes. Yes, we do have those policies in place. In addition to that, even the city of Smyrna, for that person, for that individual to receive their license, just like as a licensee, I received that booklet, that person also has to go before and I understand in order to get their license has to receive the booklet from the city of Smyrna in order to show what the proper policies are and what the laws are.
Okay.
All right.
Look, and for every employee that you have come into the store, you make clear to them that the city of Smyrna has pretty stringent practices with regard to this. And as Mr. Anderson discovered, and as we told the applicant for the privileged license, if you get caught doing what you're not supposed to, you go to jail.
Correct.
Is that right?
That is correct. That person was aware of that. Mm-hmm. And now obviously has learned the hard way about that.
Right.
And in addition to, we also, any new employees that are coming in, for instance, we just hired one last week, they're not allowed to be on the floor working for us until they have completed the Training Institute's Responsible Vendors program and are certified at that point. So they are fully aware not just of Georgia's laws, but of Smyrna-specific laws. This is something we take very seriously. This is of the 7, now 8 employees that are on staff, with an average of 15 to 20 years experience from everybody. This was the first incident for any individual on staff. And we are taking every step necessary to make sure it is the last time any individual on our staff has this problem or issue.
Okay.
So the title of the individual that sold to the minor was what? What was his position with the company?
He had literally within 2 weeks just been promoted to assistant manager.
And you're the owner?
I am the owner, yes.
I mean, how often are you on the property?
We've been open for 2.5 years now. Up until probably 2.5 months ago, I was on property 6 days a week.
I mean, how about 5 or 4, probably?
Yeah, I mean, Kevin's around very frequently as well. The reason I've stepped away is because I have a second and third store that we're opening. I live half a mile from here, though, so I can't help but stop in the store at least, even though I'm not working, at least 2 to 3 to 4 times a week, just to check on things and make sure things are going okay. And I'm in constant contact with both the general manager and assistant manager on an almost daily basis.
And Kevin, what is your position with the company?
I'm one of the business partners there.
And you're the holding agent?
I'm the holding agent.
And then how often are you on the property?
I'm there a couple days a week also, as well as at some other businesses in the area.
When you say a couple days a week, there for an hour or just drop by or what?
Drop by, yes, and stay there for an hour or so at a time. The more the operating partner, Brandon, is the one who really predominantly handles the operations in the store up until very recently, and that position then was also given to a general manager there.
Any other comments?
No, just that we're very sorry that this happened. And again, we do look at this license as a privilege from the city of Smyrna and appreciate it and do not take it for granted.
Okay.
And we did make copies of all the certificates to show that all the staff has been trained and certified, just to submit for you to have on file or whatever. I mean, we have our own, but
okay,
we have them.
All right. Well, based upon the progressive steps that you've obviously taken in regards to this particular violation, you've done the training, you've gotten the POS system in place. I would like to recommend, in regards to the violation, that we do a 1-year probation period.
Yeah, and I'd like to say that that I appreciate, because this board hears these occasionally, these alcohol beverage violations, and I'm glad to see that you guys, as just not only a standard business practice, but also you have it within policy, and then even beyond that, you actually self-impose things like compliance. I appreciate that you have a long-standing record of responsible sale of alcohol, and I believe that both of you take that seriously, as stated. I would just encourage that continued enforcement, the training, the policies, and the practices that you have. And with that said, I'll make a motion with regard to LIC 2015-06 with regard to the alcohol beverage violation for Smyrna Beer Mart located at 1265 West Spring Street for Mr. Kevin Draw as agent and Mr. Brandon King as owner, that Smyrna Beer Mart be on a 12-month probation for their sale of alcohol beginning on, say, because you're going to have, I'm just kind of jumping ahead, any decision that this board makes, regardless, is appealable beyond this board. And if you choose to appeal this decision, whichever it goes, one way or the other, after we vote, you would have 10 days to notify in writing to the city clerk that you would choose to appeal. So having said that, my motion is for Smyrna Beer Mart for a 12-month probation beginning on Wednesday, May 27th, and running concurrently for 1 year. Would that be correct or incorrect?
Running for
one calendar year.
7. Yeah.
Make that in the form of a motion.
Second motion.
It's been motioned and properly second that Smyrna Beer Mart be placed on a 12-month probation beginning Wednesday, May the 27th, 2015, to end on Wednesday, May the 26th, 2016.
I don't know what day of the week it is.
What?
But
Yeah.
Through 26.
Through the 26th of
yes.
May. Yeah.
Right. All in favor, please vote. All right. Motion passes unanimously. And as Mr. Akery said, you can appeal this board's decision to the mayor and council. You have 10 days to put that appeal in writing to the city clerk's office. So if you choose to do so, please make that decision very soon.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
And where, just for point of clarification, where can we find the terms of probation just to make sure that we do comply in every way possible?
We'll be sending that in writing. Yeah.
Just to say.
Excellent. Thank
Yeah.
you all very much. I appreciate
Okay.
it.
What the written notification will say is that any infraction that happens during your probation period will enhance your penalty coming up. So, okay.
Again,
Thanks.
thank you.
Okay. Next item is a show cause hearing, alcohol beverage violation, Smyrna Liquors, 2350 Spring Road. Mr. Harit Patel is the agent and owner.
All right, and if I can get Officer Cole here and Mr. Patel, if you'll both step up. So if you'll both raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you give in this matter be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right. Please have a seat for a moment, please. Officer Cole, please state your name.
It's Mark Cole.
And describe your employment with the City of Smyrna.
I'm a Master Patrol Officer with City of Smyrna and Smyrna Police Department.
All right, and we've had testimony in another matter a little while ago about the general procedures for conducting operations with undercover agents for alcohol compliance. Please describe for the board where you were. We're talking about the same date, February 19th of this year, and we're now talking about approximately 8 p.m.
Correct. Approximately 8:08. Our underage purchaser went into the business of Smyrna Liquors. It's located at 2350 Spring Road, Suite 600. It's located in the City of Smyrna, part of Cobb County. She entered the location. She's a 19-year-old female.
And just to make sure, like we went through earlier, she was carrying on her person a valid state of Georgia driver's license. Is that correct?
Yes.
And it's the under 21 different orientation license that says under 21 in red letters.
That's correct, sir.
Okay, so and go ahead and describe what happened there in the store.
She enters the store. She finds a bottle of Sutter Home Pink Moscato and presents it to the clerk at the time, which was later identified as a Kathy Miller. I believe that she was asked for some type of identification or form of identification. When the clerk, Kathy Miller, learned the purchaser was not in possession of a state-issued identification. She simply asked for a date of birth.
So Officer Copeland earlier said sometimes if the employee asks for ID, then the agent will kind of fumble around and not. So is that the same sort of thing that
Yes,
went on?
sir. Absolutely.
She did have it. She just didn't
yes.
immediately produce it.
Correct.
Is that
That's
right?
absolutely correct.
Okay, so go ahead now.
At which point she was allowed to purchase the alcohol and provide marked federal note, was given change and exited the location, at which point she made contact with MPO Stuckey and myself and MPO Stevens, correct. And we re-entered the location as she advised the clerk, Kathy Miller, was the one who sold her the alcohol. At which point we made contact with her. She was well aware and believed that she knew what was going on and knew she did wrong, at which point she provided us her alcohol permit and was ultimately placed under arrest and charged accordingly.
So the police department checked to make certain that she had her individual alcohol sales permit. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And she did have a valid City of Smyrna alcohol sales permit for her.
Yes, sir.
And the business was had and was displaying its occupational tax certificate.
It
right?
was.
Okay.
Correct.
And so then what happened to Ms. Miller?
She was ultimately placed into custody and charged accordingly.
She was handcuffed and taken to jail. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. So I don't have any further questions for Officer Copeland. For Officer Cole. Sorry. If we have questions from the board, we'll take them now for the officer.
Officer Cole, I just wanted to ask again, like I asked previously, what were the conditions of the store? Was it crowded or?
There was a couple patrons in there as well.
All right.
She was asked for an ID and didn't produce one.
That's correct, sir. At which point she was asked for
So
a
she
date
was
of
asked
birth
for
instead.
date of birth. What? I don't care about the date of birth, but the date of birth, whether represented, how old was she?
I'm unclear on that information as I wasn't physically with her.
Okay.
Do you know whether or not she gave her actual date of birth or a fabricated date of birth?
I believe it was fabricated, but I'm not going to.
Okay.
All right. Again, Mr. Patel, if you have any questions for our officer, you can ask them now. Okay. All right. And just with everyone else who comes up here, Mr. Patel, if you'll step up a little closer, is there anything either in what Officer Cole has said or in the summary that I have made that's incorrect or that you want to supplement in any way? All right. So I don't have any questions for Mr. Patel. We'll take questions from the board.
Mr. Patel, do you have any initial opening comments you'd like for us to know?
Sure. I've been in this business for 15 years, 10 years at this location, and over the years, we've had a number of compliance tests done by the city and the state. We've always passed, because for the first 7 years, I worked open to close 6 days a week, making sure all my employees checked IDs. And on top of that, we do our own compliance test. I've had neighbors' kids, friends' kids come in and try and buy alcohol. They're under 21, and all my employees have passed, including the lady that we're talking about. I did that on her when she joined us. She passed it, and whenever there's a new employee, they work with me for 6 months on my shift before I allow them to work in the evening when I'm not there.
Okay. This person, is she still employed?
No, ma'am, she is not.
Okay. All right. And what steps have you taken since this happened as far as training for your employees, if any?
I'm going to send them to classes again, which they've done before. And then secondly, I've already put in a new PO system 3 weeks ago, where you have to scan the ID, and without that, you cannot ring up a customer.
Did you say that you have to scan the ID?
The ID, yes.
With your
It
point of
reads
sale?
the date, and it calculates on its own whether it's 21 and above or not. So the employee doesn't make a mistake when they actually look at the ID. So
And
without,
you
yeah.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
So without the ID, we cannot ring up anybody.
Okay. So I know that you just offered some testimony, and you said that you guys do some self-imposed compliance
Yes,
checks
sir.
as well. And you also said that you had been in business at this particular location
Over 10 years.
for more than 10 years.
Yes,
Have you
sir.
ever had anything like this happen to you within that
The
10?
first time, like I said, we've had a number of compliance tests done, both by the city and the state, and we've passed all of them. This is the first time, and I think she just made a mistake.
Okay.
Do you own any other stores?
No, sir. This is the only one.
And you are the owner agent?
Yes, sir.
And your hours and occupation there is what?
I'm the owner, and I work 7 days a week, sir. I don't get there at 8 in the morning till about 6 in the evening. And if it's busier, then I'm stay till closing.
Do you have a manager or something that also?
I have at night, yes, sir. He's been with me for 6 years now.
And all your employees are licensed to sell?
Yes, sir, they are.
And have you replaced this employee?
No, not yet. I've taken her shifts.
Seeing that you have taken some steps in regards to putting your POS system in place, and you said that was done about 3 weeks ago?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. And you've been in business here for about 10 years, and this is your first violation?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. Well, seeing and knowing that information for this particular violation, I would also like to recommend a 1-year probation period. And I'd like to entertain a motion, please.
Make a motion. Find the right one here. License number 2015-07. Show cause hearing, alcoholic beverage violation, Smyrna Liquors, 2350 Spring Road. Mr. Hayat Patel, owner agent. That the business be put on a 1-year probation beginning May 27th, 2015 through May 26, 2016.
Second the motion.
There's been motion and properly second that Smyrna Liquors, in regards to alcohol violation, be placed on a 1-year suspension to be effective May 27th. I'm sorry, 1-year probation to be effective May 27th, 2015 through May 26, 2016. All in favor, please vote. All right, motion passes unanimously, and please understand that we do take selling to minors very, very seriously.
I understand,
So
too.
we hope that this will not
But
happen
young
again.
kids, and I don't want them handling alcohol either.
Okay.
Oh, ma'am.
All right. Thank you so much.
And
Thank
again,
you.
you do have the right to appeal this to the mayor and
Yes.
council.
Yes.
Within 10 days in writing if you want to. Get it to Terry, the city clerk.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item is a show cause hearing, alcohol beverage violation, Smyrna Food Mart, 1828 Spring Road, Smyrna, Georgia, 30080. Mr. Datta Trevetti is the agent and owner.
All right, and Officer Copeland's already sworn, so we'll consider him to still be sworn. If we can get Mr. Trevedi up here, if you'll raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
All right, if you'll have a seat, we'll listen to the testimony of Officer Copeland. You've described, we're talking about the same day, again, February the 19th of this year. Describe for the board now where you were around, looks like around 8:20 p.m.
At 8:23 p.m., we arrived at the Smyrna Food Mart. It's at 1828 Spring Road.
And you were conducting the same sort of operation that we've had described here. You sent in an underage agent carrying a valid Georgia ID, a person under the age of 21 who attempted to purchase alcoholic beverages at this location. What happened then?
The agent entered the store. Again, it was the same 18-year-old female that I had in the previous case. She entered the store, selected a 6-pack of Kinky Cocktails, pink-flavored wine coolers, and then proceeded to the counter to check out.
And did the employee in the store ask her for any identification?
No, she spoke with Alan Keith Marshall, who was the clerk at the time. He asked her if she was old enough to purchase the wine coolers, and when she told him she was, he allowed her to purchase them without requiring her to show it.
So just on her say so, she asserted she was old enough, and he made the sale on that basis.
Yes.
And at that point, what did you do?
At that point, she exited the store. She gave me the change that she had collected from him, along with the wine coolers, and I entered the store and made contact with him.
And when you made contact with him, you examined his individual alcohol sales permit. Is that correct?
Yes, I did.
And he had a validly issued City of Smyrna alcohol sales permit.
Yes, he did.
And the location was had and was displaying the required occupational tax certificate. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And at that point, what did you do?
At that point, I allowed him to call someone to take over the business. Once they arrived, he was taken into custody and transported to the jail.
Okay. I don't have any further questions for Officer Copeland. If the board has questions, we'll take them.
I'm not sure if you asked this question, but the underage agent, she did have a driver's license in her possession?
Yes, it was in her purse again.
Okay, all right. And the conditions of that particular store, was it crowded, or was she the only one in there?
Not crowded. From what I remember, she was the only person in the store when I got there.
All right. Any other questions? All right.
All right. And once again, if Mr. Trivedi has any questions for Officer Copeland, he can ask them.
I do not.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Officer Copeland. Mr. Trivedi, if you'll step up now. And as with the other two hearings today, if there's anything in what the police officer said or what I've said that you would like to correct or supplement or question, you are welcome to do so right now.
I don't.
Okay. Then I don't have any questions. Or actually, I do have one question. How long have you been the agent or agent owner at this store?
Since 2011.
Since 2011, and this is not your first time appearing before this board for a violation, is it?
This is not.
Is it correct to say in 2013 you appeared here for a previous sale to an underage individual? Is that right?
Is it 2013 or 2012?
It was.
But yeah, it was it was around 2013 or 2012.
Okay, and you received a suspension of your alcohol sales permit for a few days and a year's probation. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, I don't have any further questions.
Do you have any statements that you'd like to share with the board in regards to this particular violation?
Well, I just wanted to start off by apologizing for this entire situation from the beginning. Since the previous time that this happened, which was originally the violation occurred in 2012, which I believe the hearing happened in 2013, when we actually got the suspension, that particular employee was then terminated at that time. We sent all of our employees through training. And we've had a bi-weekly meeting with a policy paper that was signed by each one of the employees that were hired by us at that time that explains specifically each item that we require from them. And alcohol has an entire section. Selling of alcohol has an entire section on our policy sheet that has each individual employees that were working for us. The incident that happened, I can only apologize and truly apologize. And in hindsight, I should have probably given Mr. Marshall that evening, or probably that entire week, vacation. But due to his circumstance, he needed to work. He was going through a family. Unfortunately, he had a very ill family member that they were working on a situation with her heart surgery that was very stressful on him, and that in hindsight was probably something I should have taken into consideration, which I did not. And I probably do believe that played a big role in him not working to the best of his ability. But I mean, by all means, this is something that I should have taken more seriously, in terms of, making sure that this is all the steps and procedures are done. And I do a bi-weekly meeting with all my employees, and we reiterate all of these things in these meetings with my employees. So I am That's the only portion I can explain.
And the employee is still employed with you?
So he is still employed with me. He is. So I go through the process of I don't hire just any employees. I go through people and I do a full LexisNexis background check on each one of my employees. It is a 50 state, 150 county background check. It cost literally $1,000 to do it for each individual. Mr. Marshall Allen, he has been working for me for 2 years after I terminated the previous employee, and he had a clean background check. He had a few things that I had seen, which I talked to him about. Had a very good understanding of where he came from in the retail business. Us being a very small business, it's something that I had to kind of make sure I was bringing the right parties in. We had been tested twice in those 2 years by the state, and by undercover. And we passed both times during that period. And Mr. Marshall has been exceptional at his work. And I don't, again, knowing his situation in his family, in hindsight, it was something that he probably should have taken a little time to resolve, opposed to coming to work.
So what is the normal process with individuals that come in and buy alcohol? Do you typically just say, okay, are you old enough? I mean, what is it that he should have done?
So on the policy sheet, which I don't have with me, which I can have submitted, I can have dropped back off. I apologize for that. I flew in this morning and I came straight here. On the policy sheet, it shows that each individual under the age of 50, like we wrote it clearly, you can tell someone that's 50 versus someone that's not, is to be carded. You can make a nice little comment, hi, young lady, can I see your ID? Any which way, respectfully ask for ID, check the ID, make sure it's visually. We have a camera that actually is over the register to kind of, remind them that, hey, make sure you're checking the ID, because you don't want to be in a situation where you are going to jail. Because this is the first thing that we tell anyone that works for us, because it happened to us. We know you go to jail. There is no hand, buts, or fours about it. And that was explained to Mr. Mr. Marshall very well when he first came on with us. And they're supposed to ask for ID for anybody. And if it's a horizontal ID or a vertical ID, you know the difference. If it's a vertical ID, you cannot sell. Horizontal IDs mean they're over the age of 21. If they have a paper ID, they do not buy from our store. They are not allowed to buy from our store. A paper ID in my store is not valid. It is clearly written on the policy sheet. Because people have paper IDs and they just don't go to the DMV and get an actual ID. Sometimes it's theirs, it's faded, you can't see the picture, addresses are missing. There's so many issues with that. So we have that on the policy sheet. So in my stores, the main thing is you ask for the ID. Anyone under the age of 50, you're required to ask for an ID, at least see the ID. If it's vertical, it's very simple. It's a different type of ID. You tell them, sorry, can't sell it to you. And from that point, you just proceed forward.
Okay. Any questions?
I do have one additional piece of information. Okay. I apologize, and I don't know if this makes or has any bearing whatsoever. During the time that this has happened, at the beginning of the year, we are and have been in the process of going through a sale of the business. Because I myself have not been able to dedicate the amount of time that I need to and physically be there as I were in the first few years of working there. So knowing that I couldn't have managed it as the way that I used to, I have been in the process of, during the time that the violation happened, there was a negotiations going on, and that negotiations is now complete. And that gentleman has or will be submitting all of his license, because the landlord has just now approved his final lease. So he will be taking over, I believe, in about 60 days. But again, I don't want that to be any. I wanted to talk to Mr. Cox, and he said, please, by all means, explain that to the board as well. So I did want you guys to know that this was something that was in process as well.
Okay.
Mr. Trivedi, you mentioned a few minutes ago in your testimony that you just flew in today. Do you live here? Or
I do.
Okay, so you were just out of town.
I was. It was it was a close family friend's wedding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and I can tell you that, of course, you were, I'm assuming you've been in the room all morning since
Yes.
we adjourned
Yes.
this meeting,
Yes,
and you've
of
heard
course.
the previous two. And I think that it's obvious, I know that it's obvious to us that this is a little bit different.
Yes.
It's a little bit different because you just stood where you're standing now just a little more than 2 years ago to this same board for the same exact violation. And while I think that we're not unsympathetic to people's, personal problems, and that type of thing, those types of things that may have led to this type of violation. And also, while I appreciate your mentioning of the practices that you have and the policies that you have, I think that it's fair to say that something's not quite working.
I agree.
Okay, because this is twice now. And I think that that we were pretty clear the first time when we gave you the 1 year probationary period with the 4-day suspension.
It was crystal clear
at least that was the intent.
It was crystal
now
clear.
here we are, just shortly after that. And you've just been, beyond the probation for about a year. Is that right? So the year. The probation would have been from 2013 to 2014 for the 12-month probation for the first offense, and now here we are in 2015, contemplating what to do with the same violation at the same place with the same registered agent.
And I understand the predicament,
Mm-hmm.
and I can only be apologetic in terms of understanding the magnitude of the situation that we're in. Myself, I don't want to downplay the privilege that has been given to our store to be able to be in operation in the city of Smyrna. For many years, city of Smyrna has allowed me to make a living, and I am grateful for that. In the business that I'm in, it is imperative that these mistakes are rectified, and for me, I can only say that I am apologetic. There's no excuse that I want to sit here and try to present to anyone, because that's not the purpose. This is a privilege, and it's not a right to take for granted in any shape or form.
And also, I'm sure that you are, but just for the sake of clarity, you understand that this board has the ability to permanently revoke your privileged license to sell alcohol at your business. Is that right? Are you aware of that?
I am completely aware of that.
Okay.
That's actually something that I've lost sleep over several weeks. I again, I have no intention to give any excuses for any mistakes. I'm willing and understanding that the magnitude of the situation is very grand, and it is crippling to that particular location, that particular store, being not a gas station, being not a restaurant, or the ability to become a drive-through restaurant, knowing the limitations of where and what we do, how grandeur this situation is. I can't explain to you how understanding of it I am. I don't have any misrepresentations of
I
that.
guess, really, and I can sympathize with that. I mean, I know that there's no words, that you could say beyond what you've already said. What we really need to see is some type of actual proof some type of action, moving forward in the future. I can tell you that this board or nobody in the city of Smyrna wants to impose any type of punitive thing on any business that would cause it to fail. That's the last thing that we would want to do.
Right.
But
and I understand that.
People that sell alcohol in the city of Smyrna have to do it within the bounds of the law, or else. Okay?
And that or else is, I
right.
cannot agree more, and I understand that.
Okay. That's all.
Like the fellow board member mentioned, I mean, something's not working. So I guess what we're looking for is you to tell us what you're going to do to make it work, because it sounds like what you're going to do is the same thing you did last time.
No, actually, so listening to the
my question is, I mean, have you looked into the point of sale ability to check ID or to allow that cash register not to open until an ID is checked?
Have I done that up till now? No. But am I going to? Yes. The point of sale system that the gentleman, Mr. Patel, was talking about, he explained to me what it was when we came in earlier, because I was just talking to him, as his store is not very far from mine. The system is about a $5,000 system, and I told him, is there a way to do it on a, can you do a payment plan or so on and so forth? So he gave me the name and the number of the company that he is using. So I'm not going to say that I've looked into it yet, but I can tell you that I will 110% call that company and try to figure out a way to get that in my store. Because that is, at this point, the only way to prevent this from happening again is to be able to scan, because his system, the way he explained it, is very sophisticated. It scans in or your register doesn't even open. You cannot sell without that.
All right, you're the owner agent of this establishment, correct?
Yes, sir.
Do you own any other establishments?
I do not. Not anymore. I used to own Oakdale Food Mart, which is also in the city of Smyrna. But unfortunately, that business could not survive in the location it was. So this year, we did close that business down.
And what are your hours of operation? When are you at this store?
At this store, I'm there. I'm only there about once a week, and that's only for about 2 to potentially 3 hours during that week, where I come and do all the books, and I sit and I sit with all the employees every 2 weeks to do the training.
Who's your general manager or your manager?
His name is Tony. Real name is Justdeep Chadda.
And how often is he there?
He's there every day, 7 days a week. And he usually works in the mornings from, give or take, 9 o'clock till early evening between 6:30 and 7 o'clock.
And then the person that's sold to the underage individual is typically just a clerk for so many hours a day?
He is, yes. He's there. I mean, he's probably one of my more frequent employees. He's there probably 5 days a week, potentially even 6 days a week. And he's there from anywhere from 4 to 5 hours a day during the evening times to manage the business. Well, take care of the register.
Based upon the fact that you do have 2 previous violations, one I'm sorry, not correct on my paper here. 1 previous violation, and at that time we did give you a 4-day license suspension and a 1-year probation. And then, as Mr. Acree said, 2 years later, we have a violation again. My recommendation is going to be that we do a 10-day suspension with a 5-year probation.
No, and I agree with that recommendation, and I'm about to make that in just a minute in the form of a motion. And to be honest with you, I think that, like we said earlier, this panel could contemplate the permanent revocation of your ability to sell alcohol.
I understand that.
And,
I understand that.
And it's our most sincere hope that you, as the business owner, whether or not you're about to sell it or you're not, that doesn't really matter. You know, regardless of who owns the property, and right now it's you. And so it's our most sincere hope that you get the message. I mean, I'm glad to hear that you talk about you're contemplating this new point of sale thing, and I understand that $5,000 is a lot of money. You spend $1,000 per employee to do this extensive background check, right?
I agree.
If your business depends on solely almost, I'm not sure to what percentage, but if your business depends on the sale of alcohol, I would imagine that you would be eager to do whatever you had to do to ensure that this type of violation never happens again. And that's what our intent is.
That is 100% correct.
And we want for you to understand that what we're doing today is a completely different thing from the first two cases that we heard for all the things that we stated. In the motion that I'm about to make, I'm going to give you specific days on the 10 days of suspension. But just to be clear, that means for these 10 days, you cannot sell alcohol. And we're going to come out and check. And within your notification of the 10-day suspension and the 5-year probationary period, it's going to spell out things that you specifically had to do, similar to what you had to do just a couple of years ago. You have to turn any, if the alcoholic beverage product is in a case that's lit, the lights have to be off. I think that
you put a rope through it.
You have to put a chain or a rope through it. You have to
lock it,
cover up or take down the signs. It's pretty extensive. And we're going to come out to see if you're complying with that 10-day suspension. Believe me.
No, I know. They did last time.
And I can just tell you, I don't have a crystal ball, and I certainly hope that the next time I see you, it's not in here, that it's at a restaurant or something, and I can say hello. But I can tell you that if this were to happen again, especially within this 5-year probationary period, I would imagine that whoever's on this board is going to have to make some serious decisions, and they're probably seriously going to consider the permanent revocation of the license. So we don't want you to be in that situation. So you need to make sure that you do whatever you have to do to ensure that you're never here before this board for this violation again.
I will.
Okay?
I will. Thank you.
With that being said, make a motion to impose a 10-day suspension for the sale of alcohol and a 5-year probationary period for the Smyrna Food Mart, which is located at 1828 Spring Road, Smyrna, Georgia 30880, for Mr. Dada Trivedi as the agent and owner, and that this 10-day suspension shall begin at 12:01 a.m. on Friday, May the 29th, and shall continue through 11:59 p.m. on Monday, June the 8th, for a total of 10 days where you cannot sell alcohol. Make that in the form of a motion.
Second.
It's been motioned and properly second that due to the beverage violation for Smyrna Food Mart, that we do a 10-day suspension with a 5-year probationary period. 10-day suspension to begin on May 29th, 2015, 12:01, May 29th, 2015 through 11:59 p.m., June 8th, 20. Go ahead.
Suggest that be corrected through 11:59 p.m. on June the 7th.
Okay.
If the probation begins at midnight on the 29th.
Yes.
You're right. That was my mistake. Let me amend my I'll amend my motion with regard to the times of the 10-day suspension. It would be from 12:01 a.m. Friday, May 29th through 11:59 p.m. Tuesday.
No, on Sunday.
Sunday, June the 7th.
Can you second that?
Second the motion, or the amendment to the motion.
Okay. All in favor, please vote. All right, motion passes unanimously, and just like the previous show cause hearings, you can appeal this board's decision to the mayor and council. If you choose to do so, you have 10 days to put that appeal in writing to our city clerk's office. So if you do choose to do that, I'd like for you to make sure you make that decision very soon.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And we'll follow up with the letter to you as well. Okay. Next item is approval of minutes for April 22nd, 2015.
Make a motion to approve the April 22nd, 2015 minutes.
Second.
It's been motioned and properly second that we approve the April 22nd, 2015 License and Variance Board meeting minutes. All in favor, please vote. All right, motion passes unanimously. I'd like to declare this meeting adjourned at 11:34 a.m. Thank you.